The Trump Justice Department with a new indictment and crackdown that could challenge press freedom and the First Amendment. Tonight, this now is history. The Donald Trump administration is the first to ever charge a publisher in the United States with espionage. Wikileaks founder Julian Assange facing 17 new charges. This adds to his prior indictment, accusations that he violated the Espionage Act himself related to Wikileaks' famous release of stolen U.S. government documents in 2010. Assange, a controversial figure for many legitimate reasons, including the way Wikileaks has worked with foreign actors, the way it is not like a normal publisher, the way he has been accused of trying to help people hack, as well as allegations of sexual misconduct that remain. But if you want to understand what's happening tonight, you have to go beyond the legitimate criticisms of him and his checkered reputation, because you have to look at how he became such an appealing target for the Trump administration, which has, as you probably know, tried to crack down on the free press in all sorts of ways. Tonight's charges raise much larger questions about all of these issues. Assange was facing the charge of aiding Chelsea Manning, trying to get a password that would have allowed her to access these documents. The new indictment's not about that. It now alleges that he did espionage by publishing and basically helping get that information, get the secret documents and release them. It alleges the release of the materials jeopardized national security. That's almost certainly true, like most publishing of national security information. But the indictment also alleges activities by WikiLeaks that I want to be very clear. The journalists that we rely on to get stories at the New York Times and the Washington Post, that they do also engage in. Take a look at this one quote. It alleges Assange publicly promoted WikiLeaks to encourage those with access to protected information, including classified information, to provide it to WikiLeaks. In other words, the indictment is treating the activities that most top newspapers engage in, promoting sources, giving them information, and gathering and publishing classified information. It treats that now as criminal plotting and claiming that is how Assange conspired to aid and abet and commit espionage. This legal theory is not limited to foreign reporters or foreign publishers or people who only help hack. It could be applied to a range of other journalistic activities far beyond anything you've ever heard about Julian Assange. Joining me now on this very important story is New York Times national security reporter Charlie Savage. He's been reporting on this tonight, breaking it for the paper, as well as Dan Abrams, who you may know is certainly familiar with the legal side of all of this. Oh, and also the journalism side. He's an on-air anchor right here at MSNBC for years. He's now chief legal analyst at ABC News, also the host of Live PD at A&E. And we are lucky to have him away from those other jobs because he's got a new book out today on Teddy Roosevelt, which we will get to. But first, your view, Dan, of this indictment.
Look, he is the perfect target from the government perspective, right? He is someone who does not narrow down exactly what he's going to do. You know, a great publisher will look at classified, illegally obtained information, and they'll say, okay, this maybe we shouldn't publish. Maybe we should consult with the government on this one, et cetera. None of that happens with Assange. So from the government perspective, he's the guy you want to put the test case on. From the media First Amendment perspective, he's the worst defendant you can possibly imagine for the exact same reasons. He's not the guy you want to be, you know, your flag bearer. You don't want, but that's part of the problem in these cases, right, is that sometimes you don't get the people that you necessarily want.
Let me ask you about the legal history here, which you know, having covered it. The Obama DOJ under Holder was very aggressive about cracking down on both leaks and certain aspects of reporters. They looked at this same case. They didn't pursue it. Now take a listen to the new president, who has a very different view of the free press, Donald Trump.
I'm talking about the fake news media. They are truly an enemy of the people. The fake news, enemy of the people. They really are.
The problem is that Donald Trump also likes WikiLeaks. I mean, right? I mean, if you think back to all the things he said about how great WikiLeaks is, now he's prosecuting, his DOJ is prosecuting that wonderful organization. Look, as a legal matter, what makes this different is you're talking about information that was illegally obtained. That's happened in many other cases. Illegally obtained information, that's actually gone to the Supreme Court. Media not going to be held criminally responsible just because something was illegally obtained. What makes this different is illegally obtained and classified information. That's what is making this case a test case. That's what's going to make this a dangerous case, and from a legal perspective, an important and interesting one.
Charlie, when you look at this and you've been doing the reporting, is this a narrowly tailored indictment, or do you view it as potentially ensnaring individuals that do reporting in America who are not Julian Assange?
The original indictment against Assange for allegedly conspiring with Chelsea Manning to try to crack a code that would have allowed her to log on under a different username to the classified network where she got all these documents was a narrow indictment. That was a narrowly drawn indictment that did not stayed away from traditional journalistic activity. This expansion of the indictment is the opposite. It has most of the charges relate to working with a source to obtain classified information, which is something that investigative journalism in the national security world does every day.
So do you,
the Justice Department
reporters
is trying to go ahead.
Yeah, just because it's a lot. On that one point, Charlie, do you know reporters at respectable outlets who do that?
Every single day at the New York Times, the Washington Post, and every other news outlet, ordinary news outlet in America, national security journalists obtain classified information. That's what they do. That's how we report what's happening in the world of war and surveillance and everything else that's going on. Now, the Justice Department is trying to minimize the constitutional implications of the precedent that they are establishing here, or will establish if Assange is convicted, that kind of activity can be a crime, by saying that most of these charges are not about the act of publication. So it's about his conspiring with his source to obtain the information in the first place.
But that's the question, is are they treating...
That's what journalists do.
Are they treating news gathering, Dan, as conspiring?
But I don't think that journalists every day work with sources to get them to break the law. It's true that
if they work with sources taking classified material.
Wait. If they work with sources to get classified information, if it's already been released, if they already have it, that's different from saying, okay, we're going to figure out a way now where you're going to break into the computer system of the United States of America, and then you're going to give me this information. Now, that does happen on occasion, right? There's going to be a whistleblower situation where they're going to say, this is so bad, this is so horrible, that we will work together.
Well, let's put it, Charlie, do reporters ever say, go?
Yeah, Dan, I'm sorry, Dan, you're totally wrong.
You're just
totally wrong.
Tell me why.
Every single day, investigative journalists in the national security realm ask sources who have access to classified information to tell them things.
Wait, but that's not what I just said.
The very act of telling a classified fact to someone who does not have authorization to receive it is a crime by that person.
But that's not what I said.
It's very interesting. I'm going to give Dan a rebuttal briefly, and then we're actually going to talk about his book.
Good. I mean, the point is that I'm not talking about asking them. I'm talking about actually working with them, telling them how to go about doing it, how to go about helping them break into the system. That makes this different. It may not make it different as a constitutional matter, but to sort of say, well, Assange is just like everybody else, is bad for journalists. We shouldn't lump in all journalists with Assange.
Before I go to the book, Charlie, what's the next step in this case now that it's an espionage case?
Well, so now in London, where Assange is fighting extradition to the United States and to Sweden, these charges will come before the court there, and the British court system has to decide whether to extradite him here facing these kind of charges, not the more minimal charge he was facing before. That means they have to decide whether these same actions would be a crime under British law, and if so, they'll bring him here, and if not, they'll maybe decline to send him here.
Yeah, it's wild and it's high stakes. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.